My sister forged our father's will and stole my inheritance. So I put her husband in prison and she lost everything. I never thought I'd be posting something like this on Reddit, but I need to get this off my chest and maybe get some perspective from people who've been through similar situations. This is going to be long, so bear with me. My name is Clark, I'm 32, married to my wonderful wife Cassandra for 6 years, and we have 2 kids, Sandy, 8, and little Jake, 5. I work as an electrician here in Phoenix. Been doing it for 12 years now. My sister Lisa is 35, married to this guy Derek who works in insurance sales, and they have 1 daughter, Qley, 10. My father, Robert Wade, passed away suddenly from a heart attack 3 months ago. He was 68, still working part-time at his old construction company, stubborn as hell about retirement. Dad wasn't rich by any means, but he'd saved up over the years and owned a small duplex rental property that he'd bought back in the 90s when prices were reasonable. The whole estate was worth about $340,000, not millionaire money, but life-changing for working people like us. Here's where it gets complicated. Dad had always told me and Lisa that he wanted to split everything equally between us. He'd said it 100 times over the years, especially after Mom died 5 years back. You two are all I got left, and you'll both get your fair share when I'm gone. Simple enough, right? Wrong. 2 weeks after the funeral, Lisa calls me up and says we need to meet at Dad's lawyer's office to go over the will. I thought it was just standard procedure. Cassandra offered to come with me, but I figured it was just family business. Signing papers, figuring out how to split things up, maybe deciding what to do with Dad's house. I should have brought Cassandra. The lawyer, this older guy named Mr. Peterson who'd handled some of Dad's business stuff over the years, starts reading the will. And according to the document he's reading, Dad left everything, and I mean everything, to Lisa and Derek. The house, the rental property, his savings account, even his truck. I get nothing. Not a single dollar. I'm sitting there thinking there's been some mistake. I asked to see the will myself, and sure enough, there it is in black and white. Dated just 6 weeks before Dad died, signed by him, witnessed by 2 people I'd never heard of. The whole thing felt wrong, but the lawyer seemed legitimate, the signatures looked real, and Lisa is sitting there acting like this is completely normal. Dad changed his mind toward the end. She tells me after we leave the office. He was worried about your financial situation. Thought Derek and I would be better at managing the inheritance responsibly. My financial situation? Cassandra and I own our house. Both have steady jobs. Kids are healthy and happy. We're not rich, but we're not struggling either. Meanwhile, Derek had just gotten laid off from his previous job and they'd had to move in with her mother-in-law 6 months earlier because they couldn't make rent. Something stank about the whole thing, but what was I supposed to do? The will looked official, the lawyer seemed legitimate, and challenging it would mean accusing my own sister of fraud. Family gatherings were already awkward enough without starting a legal war. So I went home and told Cassandra what happened. She was quiet for a long time, then asked me if I really believed Dad would cut me out completely. When I thought about it honestly, the answer was no. Dad and I had our differences over the years, but he'd never shown any favoritism between Lisa and me. If anything, he'd been proud of how I'd built my electrical business from nothing. But the will was legal, signed, and witnessed. What choice did I have but to accept it? Update 1, 7 months ago. Things got worse after my last post. A lot worse. So Lisa and Derek inherited everything, and I figured that was the end of it. Painful, but what can you do? Family is family, and I wasn't going to destroy relationships over money, even if it hurt. But then they started making moves that didn't sit right with me. First, they kicked out Mrs. Lynn, the elderly tenant who'd been renting the duplex from Dad for 8 years. She was always on time with rent, took good care of the place, but apparently Derek wanted to upgrade to higher-paying tenants. Mrs. Lynn had to move back in with her son's family because she couldn't find another place she could afford. Then they put Dad's house on the market. I get that they needed to liquidate assets, but this was the house Lisa and I grew up in. Dad had lived there for 30 years. I asked Lisa if we could talk about it, maybe figure out a way for me to buy it from the estate at fair market value. I had some savings, could have gotten a loan for the rest. Derek thinks it's better to get a clean sale, she told me. No family complications. Family complications. That's what I'd become. The house sold within 3 weeks to some flippers who were planning to gut it and turn it into a rental. 30 years of family memories, gone to strangers who saw it as nothing but a profit opportunity. But here's what really got to me. Lisa and Derek bought a brand new house in Scottsdale with the inheritance money. Not a modest place, but a $280,000 house with a pool, 3-car garage, the works. Derek was posting pictures on Facebook, talking about their new chapter and financial freedom. Meanwhile, Cassandra and I are still in our 1,200 square foot house, driving a 12-year-old Honda, trying to save up for Sandy's orthodontics. Not complaining about our life, but the contrast was hard to ignore. I started thinking more about the timing of Dad's will change. 6 weeks before he died, he'd seemed fine. We'd had Sunday dinner together, talked about maybe taking the grandkids fishing that summer. He'd even mentioned wanting to help me buy a new work truck eventually. Nothing about changing his will or being worried about my finances. 2 weeks later, he had his first heart episode. Lisa was the one who found him and called 911. She rode with him to the hospital, was there when they admitted him. Derek joined her that evening, and they basically camped out at the hospital for the next month while Dad recovered from his surgery. I visited when I could, but I was trying to keep my business running and take care of my family. Cassandra brought the kids by a few times, and Dad seemed happy to see them. Tired, but mentally sharp. Not like someone who was making major changes to his estate planning. I started wondering, when exactly did Dad go to the lawyer? Who drove him there? Who were these witnesses I'd never heard of? Update 2, 6 months ago. I did something I probably should have done months ago. I hired a lawyer. After reading comments on my previous posts, especially from people who'd been through similar situations, I decided to at least get a consultation with an estate attorney. A lot of you mentioned that wills can be challenged if there are questions about the circumstances under which they were signed. The attorney I met with, Jasmine Walsh, looked over the paperwork I had and asked a bunch of questions about Dad's mental state, his relationship with Lisa and Derek, and the timeline around when the will was supposedly changed. She said there were enough red flags to warrant a deeper investigation. First red flag, the witnesses. Jasmine had her investigator track down the 2 people who'd supposedly witnessed Dad's signature. One was a woman named Patricia Hoffman who worked at a check-cashing place downtown. When the investigator talked to her, she said she'd never met my father and had never witnessed any will signing. She had no idea how her name got on the document. The second witness was listed as James Mitchell, with an address in Tempe. Turns out that address is a vacant lot. No James Mitchell, no residence, nothing. Second red flag, the lawyer who supposedly prepared the will, Mr. Peterson, was legitimate. But when Jasmine contacted his office, he said he'd never worked with my father on any estate planning. He had no record of preparing a will for Robert Wade, had never met him, and definitely hadn't been involved in any will signing ceremony. Third red flag, handwriting analysis. Jasmine arranged to have Dad's signature on the will compared to other documents he'd signed, including his mortgage papers and tax returns. The signature on the will didn't match. Close, but not close enough to fool an expert. The will was a forgery. A pretty good one, but a forgery nonetheless. I felt sick when Jasmine showed me the analysis results. My own sister had faked our father's will to steal my inheritance. Lisa, who I'd grown up with, who I defended when kids picked on her at school, who'd been my maid of honor at Cassandra's and my wedding. She'd looked me in the eye at Dad's funeral and hugged me while knowing she was planning to rob me. But feeling sick was nothing compared to feeling stupid. How had I not seen this coming? Looking back, there had been signs. Lisa and Derek's financial problems had been getting worse over the past year. Derek had been bouncing between insurance jobs, never lasting more than 6 months anywhere. They'd moved in with his mother because they'd gotten evicted from their apartment. Lisa had been stressed about money constantly, making comments about how unfair it was that Cassandra and I seemed to have our lives together while they were struggling. There had been conversations over the past couple years where Lisa would make comments about Dad's favoritism toward me. How he was always talking about my electrical business. How proud he was that I'd made something of myself. I thought she was just being sensitive, maybe feeling like Dad appreciated my blue-collar work more than her office job at the insurance company. Now I realized she'd been building a narrative, probably in her own mind as much as anyone else's, that Dad preferred me and that she deserved compensation for that perceived unfairness. The money hadn't corrupted her, it had revealed who she really was underneath. Jasmine filed a motion to contest the will, and we requested a full investigation into how the forged documents had been prepared. She said these cases can take months to resolve, but the evidence was pretty clear-cut. If we could prove forgery, which looked likely, the fake will would be thrown out and Dad's estate would be distributed according to Arizona's intestate succession laws, which meant Lisa and I would split everything equally. That was the good news. The bad news was that Lisa and Derek had already spent most of the inheritance money on their house, new cars, and various purchases. Even if we won the case, getting the actual money back might be complicated. But I wasn't just fighting for the money anymore. I was fighting for my father's memory and for the principle that you can't just steal from family and get away with it. Update 3, 5 months ago. The legal process has been a nightmare, but we're making progress. Jasmine's investigator dug deeper into how the will forgery was carried out, and the details are pretty damning. Turns out Derek has a cousin named Tony who works at a print shop downtown. Tony admitted, after being confronted with evidence, that Derek had paid him $500 to help create official-looking legal documents, including the fake will and witness statements. Derek had gotten copies of Dad's real signature from insurance documents he'd handled at his previous job. He'd practiced copying it for weeks, then had Tony create the fake paperwork using templates downloaded from legal websites. They'd made up the fake witnesses and addresses, figuring no one would ever check. The most disgusting part was the timing. They'd planned this while Dad was in the hospital recovering from his heart surgery. Lisa would visit Dad every day, taking pictures of him sleeping and posting them on Facebook to show what a devoted daughter she was, while secretly planning to forge his will. Derek had even researched Dad's assets during this time, figuring out exactly what the estate was worth and how to structure the fake will to claim everything. They'd calculated that I probably wouldn't challenge it because I wouldn't want to destroy the family relationship. They almost got away with it. But here's where it gets more complicated. Jasmine found out that this wasn't Derek's first time committing fraud. He'd been fired from his previous insurance job for falsifying customer documents and had been under investigation by the State Insurance Commission. Lisa had known about this but had never told our family. When Jasmine presented all this evidence to the court, the judge not only invalidated the fake will but also ordered a criminal investigation into the fraud. Derek was arrested last week on charges of forgery, identity theft, and financial fraud. Lisa hasn't been charged yet, but the district attorney is reviewing her involvement. The house in Scottsdale that they bought with Dad's money is being seized as part of the asset recovery process. Their new cars, the expensive furniture, all of it is getting liquidated to pay back the estate. Lisa and Derek have had to move back in with his mother, and Derek is facing up to 5 years in prison if convicted. I should feel vindicated, but mostly I just feel sad. This whole mess has destroyed our family. Lisa won't speak to me, blames me for ruining their lives by hiring lawyers. My Aunt Carol, Dad's sister, has taken Lisa's side, saying I should have just worked things out within the family, instead of involving the courts. Some people seem to think I'm the bad guy for pursuing legal action against my own sister. But what was I supposed to do? Let them keep the money they stole by forging my dead father's signature? Cassandra has been amazing through all of this. She keeps reminding me that I didn't choose this fight. Lisa and Derek did when they decided to commit fraud. I'm just standing up for what's right. The estate settlement should be finalized within the next month. I'll get my half of Dad's inheritance, minus legal fees and court costs. It won't be the full amount because of what they already spent, but it'll be substantial enough to pay off our mortgage and set up college funds for Sandy and Jake. But the family relationships are probably broken forever. And that might be the saddest part of all. Update 4 months ago. Derek was sentenced to 3 years in prison last week. Lisa avoided criminal charges by cooperating with the prosecution, but she had to pay substantial fines and will be on probation for 2 years. The asset recovery process is almost complete. I'm getting about $160,000 total, not the full inheritance because of what they spent and couldn't recover, plus legal fees, but enough to make a real difference for my family. Cassandra and I paid off our mortgage and put the rest into savings and college funds for the kids. But here's the part one didn't expect. Now that Derek is in prison and Lisa has lost everything, she's been trying to reconcile. She's called me 6 times in the past 2 weeks, sent long text messages apologizing and asking if we can work things out as family. The tone of her messages has changed completely. When she was living in the Scottsdale house with Derek's fraud money, I was the bad guy who was destroying the family with lawsuits. Now that she's back to being broke and facing the consequences of their actions, suddenly I'm her brother again and family should stick together. Yesterday she showed up at my house uninvited. Cassandra answered the door and called me in from the garage where I was working on a project. Lisa looked terrible, thinner than I'd ever seen her, dark circles under her eyes, wearing clothes that looked like they came from a thrift store. "Clark, please, we need to talk," she said. "I know I made mistakes, but I'm still your sister. Derek manipulated me into this whole thing. I never would have done it on my own. That was her story now. Derek was the mastermind. She was just a victim who got swept up in his scheme. Which might have been more believable if I hadn't seen the evidence showing that she was the one who researched Dad's assets. She was the one who had access to his personal information from her hospital visits. And she was the one who handled most of the logistics of the fraud. "I've lost everything," she continued. "My marriage is over. I'm living with Derek's mom until I can find my own place. I had to take a minimum wage job at a grocery store because my insurance license got revoked. Qley barely understands why her dad is in prison. I need help getting back on my feet." Cassandra stayed in the room, which I was grateful for. I needed her there to keep me grounded. "You didn't just steal money, Lisa," I told her. "You stole it while I was grieving Dad's death. You hugged me at his funeral knowing you were planning to forge his will. You looked me in the eye and lied about what Dad wanted. I know, and I'm sorry. I was desperate, and Derek convinced me that you'd be fine without the inheritance because you had your business and a stable life. He said it would hurt you less than it would help us. So you decided for me. You decided what I deserved from our father's estate." She started crying then, which might have worked on me a year ago. But I'd learned not to trust Lisa's tears. "I'm not asking you to forgive me right away," she said. "I'm asking you to help me. You got your inheritance back, you paid off your mortgage, you're doing well. Could you loan me enough to get an apartment for me and Qley? Maybe $5,000? I'll pay it back, I promise." Cassandra shifted next to me, and I could tell she was trying not to say something she'd regret. "Lisa, you committed fraud," I said. "You forged Dad's signature. You spent months lying to me about it. Derek is in prison because of choices you both made. I can't just pretend that didn't happen. But I'm family. Doesn't that mean anything to you? You should have thought about that before you tried to steal my inheritance." She left after that, but I know this isn't over. She's desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. I'm worried about what her next move might be. Update 5, 3 months ago. Lisa escalated things last week in a way I didn't see coming. She contacted Sandy's school and tried to convince them that Cassandra and I were unfit parents who were neglecting our children. She told the principal that we were financially irresponsible and mentally unstable due to family stress, and that Sandy had been showing signs of anxiety at home. The school counselor called us in for a meeting, and we had to explain the whole inheritance situation to prove that Lisa's accusations were baseless. Fortunately, Sandy's teacher confirmed that she's been happy and well-adjusted at school, and the counselor could see that Lisa's claims didn't match reality. But it shook me up badly. Going after me was one thing, but dragging my 8-year-old daughter into this was crossing a line I didn't know existed. Cassandra was furious. "This is who your sister really is," she told me that night. "She's not desperate and making poor choices. She's vindictive and willing to hurt innocent children to get what she wants." 2 days later, Lisa called my work phone and got one of my coworkers, told him that I was under criminal investigation for fraud and might be facing prison time. She was hoping he'd spread rumors that would hurt my reputation and maybe cost me customers. When my boss Mike asked me about it, I had to show him court documents proving that I was the victim, not the perpetrator, in the fraud case. Mike was understanding, but I could tell the whole situation made him uncomfortable. That evening, I drove over to Derek's mother's house where Lisa was staying and had it out with her on the front porch. "What you did to Sandy was unforgivable," I told her straight up. "Stay away from my family, stay away from my work, and stop trying to destroy my life because you're facing consequences for your own choices." "I wasn't trying to hurt Sandy," she said, but she wouldn't look me in the eye. "I was genuinely concerned about the stress this situation is putting on your family." "Bullshit. You were trying to get custody of my kids taken away so I'd be desperate enough to give you money to make it stop." "That's not true." "Then why did you call my work and lie about me being under criminal investigation?" She didn't have an answer for that one. "Lisa, I'm going to say this once, and I need you to hear it clearly. I will never give you money. I will never loan you money. I will never help you get back on your feet after what you did. You made your choices, and now you get to live with the consequences. So that's it? You're just going to abandon me. You abandoned me when you decided to forge Dad's will." Derek's mother came out then and asked me to leave. Fair enough, it was her property. But before I left, I made sure Lisa understood that if she contacted my children's school again, if she spread more lies about me at work, if she harassed Cassandra or tried to manipulate anyone else in my life, I would file for a restraining order and sue her for defamation. I haven't heard from her since then, but I know she's still in town. Qley is in the same school district as Sandy, so there's always a chance of running into them. The thing that bothers me most is how this whole experience has changed me. I used to be the kind of person who always gave family members the benefit of the doubt, who believed that love and loyalty could overcome any conflict. Now I find myself questioning everyone's motives, wondering if people close to me have hidden agendas. Cassandra keeps reminding me that most people aren't like Lisa and Derek, that what they did was extreme and unusual. But it's hard not to feel paranoid after discovering that someone you trusted completely was capable of such calculated betrayal. Final update, 2 months ago. I'm posting this final update because some of you have been following this story for months and deserve to know how it ended. Derek was released early on good behavior after serving 18 months of his 3-year sentence. Lisa divorced him while he was in prison, saying she needed to protect herself and Qley from further legal complications. 3 weeks after Derek got out, Lisa showed up at my house again. This time she brought Qley with her, which I think was calculated to make me feel guilty about saying no to whatever she was going to ask for. "Clark, I know you're angry with me, and you have every right to be," she started. "But I'm not asking for myself anymore. I'm asking for Qley. She needs stability, and I can't provide that on my grocery store salary. Could you consider helping with her school expenses? Maybe her after-school program costs." Qley was standing there looking embarrassed and uncomfortable. She's 12 now, old enough to understand that her mom was basically begging for money from the uncle she'd wronged. I felt terrible for the kid. None of this was her fault. "Lisa, using Qley to manipulate me isn't going to work," I said. "If you're concerned about her welfare, there are social services and programs that can help single mothers. Family should help family. Dad would have wanted." "Don't you dare tell me what Dad would have wanted. You forged his signature to steal his money. You don't get to speak for him." Cassandra invited Qley inside to play with Sandy and Jake while Lisa and I finished our conversation on the porch. "I've changed, Clark. I've learned from my mistakes. I go to therapy now. I'm working on myself. Can't you see that I'm trying to be better? I can see that you're in a difficult situation, and I'm sorry about that. But your problems aren't my responsibility to solve. So you're just going to let your niece suffer because you can't forgive her mother?" This was the same emotional manipulation she'd been using our whole lives, making her problems everyone else's responsibility, turning her poor choices into other people's moral failings. "Qley isn't suffering because I won't give you money, Lisa. She's suffering because her parents committed fraud and destroyed their family's stability. Those were your choices, not mine." She tried a few more approaches, appealing to Dad's memory, promising to pay me back, even offering to sign legal documents giving me control over how any money would be spent on Qley's behalf. But I'd learned not to trust any agreement with Lisa, legal or otherwise. After she left, Cassandra and I talked about whether we should help Qley directly, maybe by paying for some school activities or contributing to a college fund that Lisa couldn't access. We decided against it, partly because we couldn't trust Lisa not to find a way to benefit from it, but mostly because we didn't want to reward her manipulation tactics. That conversation was 3 months ago, and I haven't heard from Lisa since. I know through family gossip that she moved to Tucson with Qley and got a job at another insurance company. Apparently, she's been telling people there that I'm wealthy and heartless, that I refuse to help my own niece out of spite. Let them think what they want. I know the truth. Cassandra knows the truth, and that's enough for me. Derek tried to contact me once through Facebook, sending a long message about how sorry he was and how the whole thing was his fault, not Lisa's. He said he was in therapy, had found religion, and wanted to make amends. I deleted the message without responding. Some people don't deserve second chances. The money we recovered from Dad's inheritance has made a real difference in our lives. We paid off our mortgage, set up college funds for Sandy and Jake, and I was able to buy new equipment for my electrical business. Cassandra went back to school part-time to get her nursing degree, something she'd always wanted to do but couldn't afford before. More importantly, I've learned to trust my instincts about people. When someone shows you who they really are through their actions, believe them. When someone tries to manipulate you by using your own kindness and family loyalty against you, recognize it for what it is and protect yourself accordingly. I still miss the sister I thought I had, the one who existed before I learned what she was really capable of. But I don't miss the stress, the lies, and the constant drama that came with trying to maintain a relationship with someone who saw me as an obstacle to her financial goals rather than as family worth protecting. Some of you have asked if I think I'll ever reconcile with Lisa. The honest answer is no. Trust, once broken this completely, doesn't just repair itself with time. She didn't make a mistake in a moment of weakness. She planned and executed a months-long fraud scheme targeting her own family. That's not the kind of thing you get past with therapy and apologies. I hope she's building a better life for herself and Qley in Tucson. I hope she's learned from the consequences of her choices and is making different ones now. But I hope all of that from a distance, because I can't afford to give her another opportunity to hurt my family. Thanks to everyone who followed this story and offered advice and support along the way. For anyone dealing with similar family betrayals, I'd say this: protect yourself first, trust your instincts, and don't let anyone convince you that family loyalty requires accepting abuse. Some relationships aren't worth saving, even when they're with people you love.